Well, perhaps we can just start how this came to be. I was by a friend of mine to talk to their son, who was being cyberbullied. And apparently he was very upset and threatening suicide over this. And although I don't now see many people, I said, okay. And so this morning the young man came by. And I have to say I was really upset by the suffering. I still am. You can hear that in my voice, right? It was just, it was this young man sitting in front of me, but also all the other people I have in the past treated for bullying, and people I have helped with bullying, people who have stood up for bullying. It is a really, really big, bad, horrendous problem.
Definitely.
It's so much worse than people who've never been through this can possibly imagine, the way it takes over your life. I mean, it was bad back in the day when I was young. Nowadays, there is no safe haven from this. There's torrents of cyber abuse streaming into your phone, into your computer at all hours of the day, and vicious, nasty attacks and vicious, nasty accusations, and the person in question is just overwhelmed by this. It's just like this tide of just negativity, of garbage, like a tsunami with all these broken sticks and twigs, and as a single person you just can't stand up against it. It's absolutely horrendous. And to see this lovely, lovely young man sitting there on my sofa this morning, and it was just awful. It was awful to hear what he had to say and what he was going through. And what I thought was the most awful of all was how he was internalizing this. That it was his fault, that there was something wrong with him, that he had, done or been or said or done all these horrible things. And it was clear to me that he wasn't actually really clear anymore as to what he'd ever done or said. It had all sort of blurred and become false memories with all of this. So I took him back to the aspect of the original incident that he was supposed to have been engaged in, and said to him, at the time, did that aspect do anything bad? And he went, no, everything was fine. People were smiling and laughing. I was having a good time. They were having a good time. There was just no indication of this. And the next thing I know, these people it's this one person. This one person is telling stories. He's phoning up my friends. He's phoning up the people who run my social clubs. He's phoning up shops where I go shopping. He's everywhere, and he's telling these things about me, and I'm just like, basically, what the fuck?
Exactly.
And so then from there it went from bad to worse, and then this cyber flood started, and it's been absolutely relentless ever since this started. And his entire social network is in tatters. He can't go anywhere anymore. He's not going to school anymore. He's walking around at night with a hoodie on, and shopping in shops which are far away from where everybody else lives. And this is just horrendous. It was horrendous. It was absolutely horrendous. And at one point he said something that, I'm 16 years old, I should be able to cope with this.
Right.
And that is when I said, and I hope you don't mind me sharing this, I said, I know a gentleman who's 50.
55.
He's got big business. Helps lots and lots of people. Has thousands of positive followers and friends, and the same thing happened to him.
Yeah.
And honestly, the young man's eyes just widened and said, you're making that up. And I said, no, I didn't make that up. Didn't make it up at all. And I had a moment of such clarity of, yeah, it's crazy, but your situation, you were being bullied.
Yeah.
You are being bullied.
Yeah.
is a victim of a bullying campaign.
Right. Well, it's
The same
yeah.
young man who's sitting here in front of me today, and it's exactly the same pattern. And I saw this with such clarity, and I thought, really, we should do something about this.
Yeah. I mean, you and I both, we do work with a lot of people, and I see this also like a young woman this guy finds her, and he's attracted to her, and they fall in love, and all of a sudden he alienates all her friends and alienates her family, takes all her money, tells horrible stories about her, and leaves her abandoned, and her self-value and self-esteem is totally destroyed, and try to ruin her business and everything. This is
her social networks in ruin, her name in ruin.
Yeah.
I mean, and with cyberbullying, what I've heard now is that when children, in the past, they could change schools, but nowadays that doesn't even help anymore. The bullying and the bad reputation follows from one place to the next. And these accusations that were being leveled against this young man, they had sort of the taint of being like a child abuser about them.
Yes.
Totally extraordinarily ridiculous accusations to tar him with this insanity.
I mean, you can see it with the kids. I mean, children, they learn from their parents, but, like in my case, we're talking about adults. We're talking about adults who I actually looked up to, adults that helped change my life. And
that must be. See, the young man said about there's a game he plays, and there's a guy who runs the game, and that was one of the first ports of call for this person, to go to the guy who runs the game, to get him banned from all the games, which were his life, which was where all his friends were, which was what he was doing. That was his life, his world. And it may not sound much to somebody is listening to that. Oh, stupid kids getting banned from a stupid game, who cares? But to him, that was his social network, that was his life. And these things, and I have never seen this so clearly as being the essence of bullying. There's one person going around and whispering in everybody's ear and turning everybody against this person, and getting it to the point where people who know it's wrong are afraid to say anything.
Right.
It becomes so vicious that people are now afraid to stand up for this person, because they're afraid that the same thing is going to happen to them.
Exactly. And that's happened with my life too. My friends. Yeah. I mean, I have friends and people whose lives it's actually changed, and they're sharing about how they've been raped 19 times and FasterEFT helped change their life, and all of a sudden they started being attacked and saying you're drinking the Kool-Aid and horrible things for innocent people who are just needing help. And that's particularly unfortunate then. And then you get commercial interests, which are also quite interesting. One of the shop owners where this person was playing the games said to him, it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. I'm after the majority of customers. So you must leave. And as a German, that really sets my tail on fire, something rotten. That really sets my tail on fire, something rotten. Now, I might be naive to say that I believe in right and wrong. And that some things are right and some things are wrong. And that I will stick to that. And I don't give a flying monkey's arse whether there is commercial repercussions or whether there's people who don't like me anymore because it's unpopular. I think that, look, we do different forms of EFT. I do other things as well, but we do energy work. Or at least we work with emotions. We can find common ground there. We have a method where we can move emotions, which was never heard of in the days past. But I think that there's a dual thing that has to be here. There has to be, obviously, getting the person who suffered from this heartbreak,
And this is what that is. It is heartbreak. And with the heart center is the power center in the energy system. When that goes down, we become weak, and then the rest of the vultures pile in for the attack. Classic sort of group behavior, that is.
Yeah.
So there's one thing, get this person back to their own center and their own strength and their own heart. And one of the things that I said to the young man was that you have a good heart. You don't set out to hurt anybody. You try to help people. That's not something you can say about the bullies, right? And to actually really put the bullying thing on the agenda. And instead of some chicken, when the flood of abuse pours into your inbox, and you go, okay, that must be right then, because everybody's saying the same thing.
Exactly.
To say, okay, I can see a clean tsunami when I see one right in front of me. That's what that is. Where are the facts under all of this? Where are the actual facts that you could take to a court case? And what you find is, in these cases, there are no facts. Or it's completely made up. Or some tiny little thing has been blown up out of all proportions and had terrible names stuck to it.
Opinions.
Yeah, just like, I don't know, character assassination, really.
Well, it is a form of abuse. It's abuse. It causes post-traumatic stress. For me personally, there was some very, very dark moments. Even though, my friends were being hurt, people who I trusted betrayed me, people who I cared for, and they lose their job, so they lose their career, they lose their passion because of the attacks that they also had on their lives because of one business over another. And if it hadn't been for my friends that tap on me and my personal tapping on myself, I would have quit a long time ago. But there's one thing that's always drove me was, I know it works, I know it helps people, and there were a lot of friends there were a lot of people there who support me and love me, and they knew, they could see what was going on. I said, Robert, this happens a lot. It happens in churches, it happens in chiropractors, it happens in businesses.
But when you're actually in it, it's
real.
It's an enormous topic, is bullying.
Yeah.
And I think that we can really have an opportunity here in two ways. One of them is to really tell people about this pattern.
Yeah.
Whenever you see one person with 100 people after them, and cyber attacks and abuse and personal insults are flying around, we are dealing with bullying.
Yeah, definitely.
That's the only word for it. That is what it is. Bullying is the act of being aggressive towards one member of a group, trying to drive them out or kill them.
Or hurt them financially, emotionally. Somebody sent me a quote saying, somebody sent me a quote the other day saying something like, if they can't control you, they'll try to control what everybody else thinks about you. And that's what basically was happening, not only with me, but not only with this young man, but unfortunately, hurt people. And that's what hurt people do, unfortunately. So the question is, how do we solve the riddle? How do we end the problem? How do we, because here it is. I mean, you're an EFTer, and a lot of my clients, a lot of people who come to Faster are EFTers, and yet you're using EFT and you love EFT, and then you see somebody else abusing somebody else. What happens if you speak up? What happens if you say something? What happens if you're part of a football team or part of a marriage or part of a family and you see someone else abusing someone else? What do you say? What do you do? Are you afraid to speak up?
Well, it is obviously a problem, right? But the way I would see that is that the person who was the victim of the attack is the person who will then stand up for the other people.
So say it again, the victim has to stand up.
The victim is the one that's going to become the champion, the hero.
Oh yeah. definitely we have to work through it, for sure.
Yeah.
You know, because like, like with you and I having a conversation, I said, now this is I mean, you could be under attack too. I mean, and you, because this is the nature of the game.
It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to be the nature of the game, and it shouldn't be the nature of the game.
Because see, I was go ahead. In my life, I was never smart. I was never the fastest. I was never the prettiest. So I never been picked on. I mean, I was the quiet one back in the room. But now it's like, this is like a total shock to me, because I always thought everybody's together, holding hands, we're working together, we're creating a new world together. But apparently not always the case for some people. And so, well, how do we do this? The question is, what do we do, and how do we unite this?
I have to say one thing about that. Is that as long as people stop tapping at zero, they are not going to evolve as people, and they're not really ever overcoming their problems that they have.
Exactly.
And plus also this endless tapping on trauma doesn't make you a better person. It doesn't solve your life's problems.
Right.
It's like the Scientologists. They really showed us that this doesn't work. Their whole idea is that if you clear away all the trauma, then you have a clear person, the best you can be. That's their idea. Mm-hmm. And so they started off with tapping on their traumas, and then if they couldn't find, they got a bit better, but not perfectly better. So they found more traumas and tapped on more traumas, and it didn't get any better. Mm-hmm. And then they tapped on past life traumas, and it didn't get any better. Mm-hmm. But people were starting to get very paranoid and freaked out now. And when the past life traumas weren't doing it anymore, they started tapping on alternate life traumas. And that's the point where they really got very paranoid and crazy.
They're missing the one piece.
The missing that one piece is that although trauma has influence on lives, it doesn't create who we are. And there's this whole other scale from, 0 to +10 of positive emotions.
Exactly.
They are what actually evolve you. The positive experiences evolve you. Exactly. And you're not finished tapping until you've had a +10, basically. Exactly. Now, I've known this since 2002, and nobody listened to me, and I had this bullying effect. People were whispering in Gary's ear that I was bringing EFT into disrepute. And all the rest of it, and I thought, I can't be doing with this bullshit, and wandered away and made emotrance instead. And then when Gary retired, I said, okay, I'll write a better EFT. Then he unretired, but I wasn't to know this, so that's not something that I can help. I was being as respectful as I possibly could be under the circumstances. Right. So I think that one of the big problems with the whole classic EFT people is that they're still all tapping only on trauma, which doesn't make them a better person. And the second is that they're trying to work without the positives. Right. Which also doesn't give you a healing event, makes you into a better person.
You got to rewrite the memory, make it positive.
And in the meantime, a lot of the ongoings in the classic EFT community are really shameful, and they are bringing disrespect to EFT rather than what we guys are doing, trying to help people.
Mm-hmm. Well, the EFT people are doing the best they can with what they've been taught, and they also have their own little thing, and their evolution is evolution. We don't want to stay in the basement. We want to move up to the high rise, and a part of that is accepting changes and accepting that other people can add to the quality of what we're using,
Yeah, or that other people can go and do their own thing, basically, without throwing a strop about it. Yeah. There's like 8 billion people who haven't heard of EFT yet. Yeah. There's plenty of room for all of us to, have more people than we could ever possibly talk to in an entire lifetime, and then some. Yeah. So let's go back to the bullying, because I'm really on that topic this morning because of that young man. So what I think, what we can do is we can highlight the topic. We can certainly highlight the pattern to make people more aware of when these torrents of opinions start flooding their timelines and their inboxes, that there is actually bullying at work. Right. And to rather than just go with it, like a sheep, you know,
Mm-hmm.
to actually stop and look at the evidence behind this.
Mm-hmm.
And if there is little or no evidence, or it's all tittle-tattle, that we're actually dealing with bullying.
Right.
So that people have more of a conscious choice as to whether they want to engage in bullying and become a part of that herd that pecks at the weakest member, or whether they want to make a stand and say, no, I'll have no part of this.
Right. Right.
Right. So that's an educational point. I think that's really quite important.
Yeah, I agree.
And the other one is to help the victims of bullying to become the champions who see this, because once you've experienced it yourself, then you see it.
Yeah. Or it's shocked at first because you never saw it, and then it's like a total shock. This 16-year-old kid never knew anything that this could ever exist. It's a total trauma for someone to be totally beaten and abused verbally, cyberly, and everything. It's horrendous. Or a woman or a man who's with a person who's manipulated their whole life and took everything from them and then blamed them for what they didn't do.
And see, this is the point. It doesn't matter if you're a 4-year-old child or a 16-year-old boy or a 50-year-old man or a 60-year-old woman. It doesn't matter. It is extremely structural.
Yeah.
And the damage that creates, and funnily enough, the people who are being targeted by this are generally, from what I can see, people who are really nice people. Who don't go out of their way to make other people's lives a hell. Who really have got a good heart and are really trying to be good members of society, or just live positive lives. You know, if this was always directed at the local drug dealer, for example, you could make an argument that there was value in it.
Right.
That the entire community turns on the local drug dealer and gets rid of it. That's not the case, is it?
Well, I think another scary part is say this young man was a good young man and he did positive things. He was kind. And,
he was.
And here it is, this type of bullying of the smear and the hate and the lies, it's truly not targeted just to the young man, but also to the other people who could benefit from the kindness of this young man or the goodness of a modality that could help other people. It's also targeting the emotionally weak who are needing help, looking for help, and they find it. All of a sudden they find the smear, the dirt, and then all of a sudden it hurts them too, because they go back to no help at all. And if the person who's smearing is supposed to represent healing, it also smears the healing modality and from which they're smearing from.
Yes, this is particularly bad, obviously, when we're talking about, holistic healers or such.
Yeah.
Who've got on their websites that they want to make the world a better place. That's an additional complication in that particular case. But I think that we can certainly do something about this. We can certainly talk more about bullying. We can certainly say to people who have been bullied, it wasn't your fault, basically.
No.
This can happen literally to anybody for any odd, bizarre reason, stepping on somebody's toe, or, I don't know, cutting up somebody on the motorway or something. I don't know.
You start a new job, and next thing, one of the co-workers don't like you. They smear stuff about you. I have worked with many people who started a new job, and all of a sudden I become a target of lies and things, and just really breaks their heart, because it's the nature of hurt people who hurt others.
Well, I sprang to mind just now an ex-policewoman who had been so horrendously bullied, she developed ME in the end, and literally she couldn't move.
Yeah.
And she had been wanting to help the community and, serve and protect, basically. Yeah. And she was just a mess. Yeah. So this is, it's a real big problem, and we both have access to lots of people, which is great, and I think we could highlight this. And we talk about it, and also obviously, if anything is going to help bullying victims, it's obviously going to be some form of emotional work.
Yeah,
definitely. We do have that. And we do have that. And what I'm hoping to see out of that is that the bullying victims are the ones that come out with the heart of gold, the lion heart, and take it onto themselves to stand up when bullying is happening.
Right, definitely.
Because that is absolutely needed.
Yeah.
But you know what it's like when nobody stands up for you.
Exactly.
When nobody has your back.
But I also think if we can encourage those who are standing on the sideline, watching bullying happen, stand up and speak up. Because see, it's, you know...
Yeah, it'd be nice in theory. And as I say, if we can publicize this and say to people, when you see a lot of abuse streaming through your inbox, one way or the other, or you hear it at the water cooler, yep, and now he's gone and done this, and now he's gone and done that, and now he's gone and done that. To stop and say, there's bullying in progress here.
Yeah.
This is not just harmless tittle-tattle. This is not just a bit of fun. There is a person's life being destroyed. And what is scaring me as well, I could see that, is that, you lose your complete belief in humanity.
You can.
Do this.
Yeah. You can.
If you didn't have the tapping, well, how would you feel about everybody?
I mean, you may have saved this young boy's life. Because you said he was suicidal. How many of those kids in schools who have been bullied severely and they killed themselves? Or how many women or husbands whose husbands and wives and co-workers and colleagues have abused them to where there was no way out, they end up killing themselves, drinking themselves to death, or overdosing, or accident. It happens a lot. And it has to stop somehow, some way. And education and lots of tapping and taking it from a 0 to a +10, rewrite the memory, turn it into positive, which means we say tap until it turns gold.
And this whole champion concept I find very helpful. To stand up for the original aspect from some original thing and say, look, that aspect didn't do anything wrong. This is just like child sex abuse or rape. It isn't your fault.
Yeah.
There's all this other shit going on around you that you're probably not aware of at all.
Yeah.
And you've become a lightning conductor for this craziness. But the aspect who was there, he did nothing wrong. And to stand up for that aspect.
Yeah.
And not come away with thinking that I had one woman who'd been bullied. She'd been called into a committee meeting and she thought she was going to get a promotion. This was like Goodfellas, where the guy thought he was going to be a made man and they killed him instead. She walked to this committee and they all laid into her, 14 people. They took turns laying into her, telling her what was wrong about her. One of the things they said to her, that she had a horrible voice which was giving people a headache. These and many other things were said to this poor woman.
Yeah, bless her heart.
I mean, that's just unacceptable, isn't it? That's soul murder.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it happens in childhoods. Children have been done the same way by parents and brothers and sisters. It's definitely.
Oh yeah.
There has to be a healing of the nation, healing of the world in this area. It has to be done. There has to be some kind of solution to the pain that is being caused by other people.
See, I've been thinking about, we're talking about this, and I've asked when I was at school, I used to stop bullying from happening.
Me too.
I was quite adamant. Now, I thought about why. And for me, I think the reason is that I was sexually abused at a very young age. So when I got into school, I had a totally different take on everything than all the other sweet, innocent little children that were running around. And I could, feel the pain and really feel it, what that was causing. And also dislike of that gleeful sticking in the knives and that energy of squeezing the victim like an orange to suck out the pain and fear, to nourish yourself. I could feel that, and I really disliked it. So even as a young squirt, I used to go and I just feel it. I feel that. I have a sense of it. But because I went through this shit, and I understand it, that puts me in the perfect position to be a champion.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, and that's the way I want to go at this. And the same with you. Because you've had this experience, you now understand it. So now you are in a position to go out and be a champion to other people. And that is the way how I see to actually get that spinning the other way, to make that transformation.
Yeah, definitely.
To have victims be the champions and the ones that actually can see it when it's about to happen. Because if you stop it early on.
Yeah. It just reminds me of a young lady who was at the seminar last. Her husband tried to kill her with a knife. And finally, after all this work, she finally discovered her hero. Her hero was herself. And that is truly, if we can get people to find the true hero within themselves, to stand up for themselves, to honor themselves, and do the right thing.
Right. And strictly on a technical level, you can't really love yourself, because love is sort of an outward flowing emotion. So what we have this aspects model. Everything that's not here and now is these aspects, past or present or future. So instead of like standing up for yourself, you're standing up for that past aspect. That gives you that outward flowing, empowering movement. Or you can stand up for a future aspect and send them strength or power. But what I particularly would like to see is to say to people who have been victims of this, is that you are going to be the champion for someone else in the future. It might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, but the day will come and you are somewhere and you see this happening. And when that day comes, you'll be that person's champion. And you'll be doing something absolutely amazing and remarkable. Now, that's real, what I would call admirable strength. Not the strength of the bully that frightens and belittles and hammers and hacks and does all these other things, but the strength of a champion. Coming from the heart and standing firm in love, as it were, for another person. So I think that's so what I might suggest we do, we've talked here very honestly, that we put this up and let people watch it and make their own judgments on it.
I do want to say a big thank you to you as well, because of all the people you have supported me in the tough times, and I just want to thank you for that.
You are very welcome. I could sense that craziness there. And, let's take it to a court of law if it was that bad, is what I said. And that where the facts will be revealed of whatever happened. But this endless tittle-tattle and that is bullying. That is what it is. And that's what I saw this morning with that young boy. That it just simply, that's what it was. It was bullying. And to make so clear and obvious that it's not just social chit-chat. It's not just water cooler talk. It's much worse than that. And so what I would suggest is that we talk to our respective people about bullying and encourage them to talk about bullying also in their own communities and share this. And we can possibly offer also from our people, if anybody has a school and they would like one of our guys to come in and give them a half an hour on emotions. That's something that we can do that nobody else can do.
Yeah, I agree.
So, and my key concept really here is that the people who have been bullied are the ones that are the best placed to be sort of the first, what you would call that, like nearly missionaries for this.
Yeah.
The first people that set an example of how this is done right.
Yeah. I mean, you have been that example as well, and you worked on yourself, you worked through it, and this young man at 16, you helped him to help himself to work through it.
Yes, he was a lot happier, and I will have to say that me sharing your story really, really helped him.
Yeah.
Which is why I Skyped you. That really, really helped him. That was a big turning moment when I mentioned that he, you know, that could also, there's nothing to do with what he did, or that there's nothing wrong with him, that everybody hates him all of a sudden. You know, that it's not like that. It doesn't work like that. And that he is a good person. I asked him straight out, are you a good person? Do you go through life trying to trip over old ladies, or trying to rob people, or trying to make your mother cry? Is that how you go through life? And he was crying, and he said, no, never. I said, right. You have a heart of gold. None of us can be perfect. We make mistakes with people. We all do. You know, say the wrong thing, we don't pay enough attention, it happens.
Yeah.
They're accidents. But if you come back to the fact that you are a good person and you want to help people, you want to do your best to make the world a better place. If we can come back to that, that's where that power comes from, to then stand up to these bullies and basically just say, you know, if you want to play that game, if you want to be bullies, I stand firm in.
We send you love.
Trying to save the world, trying to do a good thing. I stand firm in love.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this conversation.
You are most welcome. And, you know, by all means, I can sense that you still have, you know, heart pain.
Oh,
so
there's been a lot of work been done on this. A lot of work.
Yeah. Just sort of put your hands on your heart of energy, take a deep breath, and just focus on your heart of gold. Just your heart of gold. That I have a heart of gold. You know, don't care what anybody else says, don't care what anybody has done, what I'm going to do, but at the core of me is this heart of gold. That helps to be strong, and I really like that. It's because gold brings together the planes. It brings together being rich, if you want to be, being healthy, being spiritual, being a light in the dark for other people. You know, it brings that all together, so it's no longer a conflict of being successful, being spiritual. One of my favorites. But yeah, just that, if I could give that to all the bullied children in the world, simply put just breathe and keep reaffirming this. I have a heart of gold.
Yeah.
To help heal that broken heart that happens, and it breaks, and it breaks as one person after the other lets you down. And it is such a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing for humanity, not just the person who is inflicted. Okay, great. I'm really pleased we had this chat this morning.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's talk about bullying.
Yeah, we will do
and that's, you know, and get more people encouraged to go down to the local school, which is just down the road from them, to get in the car, go down to the local school, knock on the headmaster's door, and say, right, if you have people in your school that are being bullied or that are afraid of being bullied, I will offer you a free 1-hour session with them, and then you can see how it goes after that. You can sit in on it if you want and see what I have to say, and just teach them basic EFT.
How to change themselves.
Or classic EFT, even something.
Positive EFT, matrix EFT, all EFTs.
Positive EFT does have the advantage of being a lot easier. Well, it is. When you got people, rather than digging around for trauma, you just say to them, what do you need to feel strong right now? And someone says wolf energy, so they tap on that and they feel stronger.
There you go.
You know, you can't beat it. And so, you know, if there's no time for therapy, that's a good one. It's positive EFT. But keeping that out of it, we're not here to sell our EFTs.
Yeah, it's all
We're
good.
here to try and encourage people who do any form of EFT at all, as we say, to get in the car, go down to your local school, knock on the door, see if you can set up something for bully victims, talk about it. It is a horrendous kind of soul murder.
Big problem in the schools.
and I would also like to say this, if you are a victim of bullying, please don't be ashamed. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how strong you are, how many weights you can lift. It doesn't matter if you were a sergeant in the army or if you're a 5-year-old child. It is structural, and when it happens to you, it is very destructive. Please seek heart healing. All my love.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. That was brilliant. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And let's go make the world a better place, shall we?
Bless you, my friend. Bye.